welcome to another Flower Fix workshop and tutorial. Today we're going to be designing a really bright, fun, summery floral bouquet. And we're going to be using some of my favorite flowers. Hydrangea, these ultra cool circus roses. They're a yellow and red variety. Right now they're really closed and tight, so you see a lot of the red, but as these open up, they are really just so stunning. I've got some yellow tulips, yellow billy balls, they're also called crispidia, and some pincushion protea. These are in kind of a corally orange color. They're a South African flower that adds a lot of texture and interest to any design. They also last a long time. It's another added bonus. And then we've got some sunny sunflowers. I've chosen two different types of greenery to arrange with today. I think that adding interesting greenery makes a bouquet no longer look like something that has come from the supermarket and something more thought out and interesting designery. I use this lemon leaf a lot in my designs. It's long lasting, it has a nice bright green leaf. And then I'm also today using seeded eucalyptus. Eucalyptus is incredibly popular as a foliage right now. You're seeing a lot of weddings and interior designers putting vases of either the upright eucalyptus that you might be more familiar with, or this beautiful seeded eucalyptus. It has a sagey green foliage and a really interesting green berry. This also dries and almost looks identical. So that's another great benefit of using something like eucalyptus. When we start out, we want to make sure that our vase that we're designing in is filled with water, and there's floral preservative that should be provided for you. You're going to want to put one package of this floral preservative into your water to get it prepared. This helps keep the bacteria from growing inside your container, and it also helps lengthen the life of your flowers. So floral preservative is always a great idea. We're going to start out today by creating a little framework with our foliage. So start out with your salal leaf, and any leaves that don't look gorgeous, please remove. When removing any product from a stem and when cutting your stems, you always want to cut at a really sharp angle. The reason you want to cut at an angle is because it increases the surface area for the plant product to intake its water. Although you can't tell with this salal leaf, if I was to show you with the hydrangea, you can see when I cut this at an angle, you have tons of space for this flower to take in water, and he's going to have his best chance of living and staying hydrated. If you are not good with a knife or don't trust yourself, you're welcome to use a nice pair of floral scissors. Again though, cut that at an angle to increase the surface area as opposed to just snipping it straight across, which gives the least amount of surface area for your flowers to intake water. So back to the foliage. I'm going to start out with the salal leaf, and I'm going to make a little framework for my other blooms to rest on, and a little framework to keep the stems from moving around. So I'm starting out, cut this at a nice angle, place it in the vase. And you do not want your lowest level of foliage or leaves to fall in the water. You want everything to be resting on the top, nothing in the water. When you let little bits of foliage or leaves get into the water, that's what causes the bacteria to grow and that awful rotten smell that I'm sure we've all experienced in our floral vases. So keep any foliage out of the water, just pick those off or cut your stem long enough that there's nothing that goes in. So again, I'm going to cut these at an angle, and I'm just kind of making a triangle to make sure that everything is covered all the way around the edge. So as you can see, I've got 4 nice pieces of salal leaf spread out throughout this bouquet. And now next I'm going to move to the seeded eucalyptus. Seeded eucalyptus is on a big branch like this, but you're welcome to cut off the individual branches and design with those. It's a little bit drapey, which is one feature that I love about this seeded eucalyptus. It adds a neat line that a lot of other flowers don't because they stick up so straight. But because they are drapey, you want to make sure they're cut short enough that they're not too top heavy to fall outside of the vase. So I'm doing the same thing here again. I'm removing anything that would fall into the water, cutting the stem at an angle, and then I'm just going to drape this right over the top, and as you can see, it's kind of spreading out everywhere. I love that look. I love the little berries of the eucalyptus making fun clusters. So now I've got a few sprigs of the seeded eucalyptus and plenty of salal. I'm going to move this out of my way so that you guys can see my table a little bit better. And now we're going to move on to the flowers. I'm going to first put in the hydrangea into my bouquet. When you design, a good rule of thumb is the bigger the mass of the flower. So the sunflowers, the hydrangea, they have a very big head and mass. They need to be designed closer to the rim of the vase so that your arrangement doesn't look top heavy. If I design this sunflower up here at the top, it looks disproportionate with the container. Now, this guy is not as massive as the sunflower. He can go a little bit higher and it doesn't make me feel like it's gonna tip over. So whenever starting an arrangement, I start with my biggest flowers closest to the bottom, and then my lighter, airier, more vertical flowers I design up and away from the container. A good rule of thumb is however tall your vase is, make sure you're designing at least that height above. If I have everything too low, it looks squatty and squashed down. And if I have everything out too high, it looks like it's gonna tip over. So this container is just right at 6 inches tall. You can see there, and I'm just gonna kind of replicate that. And I'm gonna make sure that my flowers stay in about this height range. So I'm gonna start out with my hydrangea. I'm removing the bottom leaves because they would be falling into the container. And then again, I'm gonna cut at a very severe angle with my knife. And with these hydrangea, I want them designed, they haven't started to open yet, they're really tight, but they're gonna open and be this magnificent green color. I'm gonna place one in the front of my arrangement, and then I'm gonna do the same thing here. If there's any foliage that would fall below the water line, you wanna go ahead and remove that nicely, and then cut your stem at an angle. And I'm gonna place one in the back. So now I have these two hydrangea kind of mirroring each other on the front and the back of my design. The next thing I'm gonna design with are these fun Dutch tulips. They have really pretty foliage, but inevitably the bottom foliage gets a little munched up from the way that they package them. So you're gonna wanna remove any foliage that's damaged and not firm. But the stuff that's firm, leave it on there. It's nice to have that extra foliage and not have to pay to add some back in. If we can use the flowers foliage, we always want to. We're going to put all these yellow tulips kind of in an angle in the back side of our arrangement in a cluster. We're going to do the same thing that we did with the hydrangea, cut at a severe angle, and I'm going to be designing these back here. Now the really fantastic thing is we've already put in our foliage, and so when we place that tulip in, he's not drooping all over the place. He's got something to rest up against. So you should all have 4 or 5 of these tulips, and you want to cut them at an angle. And again, we're all clustering them all together to get a real dramatic pop of color here in the back of our arrangement. Now, tulips do kind of keep growing and moving towards the light. Some people love that. I personally do. I think it's really natural and lovely. If you don't like it, you can take just a little teeny tiny tip of your knife or a pen and tap on the neck of the tulip stem, and that little puncture will kind of wound him and keep him from growing and moving towards the sun. But again, I like it. I like them moving. I think it's fun. I like coming out in my kitchen in the morning, looking at the island where I always place my flowers and seeing which direction the flowers have decided to turn their heads to that day. So I've got this nice cluster here. My last tulip, I'm going to design him in, cutting at an angle and placing And there you go. I've got this nice cluster of the yellow up here. I've got the green down here. The next flower we're gonna work with is the circus roses. Now I want those clustered down at the bottom of my container right here. So I'm gonna cut them at an angle. They're gonna be fairly short. If the foliage looks pretty, let's keep it. If it doesn't look pretty, feel free to remove it. So I've got 4 of these. We'll design 3 of them in kind of a triangle shape, and then the last one will kind of go right in the middle. Oh, I'm loving this. The last rose, again, nice sharp angle. A lot of roses, they really require a lot of water as well as the hydrangea do. And if you've ever gotten a dozen roses and some of the top ones tip over right away, but the bottom ones still look nice, a lot of times that's a signal that their stem isn't uptaking enough water. So you always want to pull that rose out, give it a nice fresh cut, fill your container full of water again and put him back in. And a lot of times that rose will quickly revive himself and pop right up. We're gonna move on to these sunflowers. Now these are massive sunflowers. Just love these. Now I included in your kit a couple pieces of really thick heavy gauge wire. Sometimes sunflowers bend their heads, and they do, when they're out in the field, move their head with the sun all day long and start back up the next day. And so depending on when they cut the flower and what stage it's in, it might have a real sharp bend. So I always use a piece of wire I insert the piece of wire right up there at the top of the head, and I wrap it around just to kind of keep his head upright. Now these have a massive stem. You may not be able to cut it with a knife. You may have to use some clippers, but you want to cut it at a sharp angle. And then I'm going to design one of these massive big sunflowers right here in the front. And then I'm going to keep, with my cluster of color, I'm going to put another sunflower right there. I think sunflower leaves are really unattractive, so I remove them. If you like them, you're welcome to keep them. And again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'll try to do a better job of showing you. I take this wire, I support the head with my fingers, I place the wire up there, and then I slowly wrap it around. And after I have it wrapped around, now that wire is going to hold the floral bloom in place. I'm going to cut the stem again, and this last one I'm going to place right here in the middle of the bouquet. Now I'm moving on to the pincushion protea. They have a very hard woody stem, and they also have some foliage that doesn't always look great. So I strip it with my fingers like this, and if your fingers aren't strong enough to do that, feel free to use a pair of clippers. And I want to tuck one of these pincushion protea here, and I want to tuck another one right back here. So I'm going to cut them at an angle, design with him there, and I'm going to do that same thing over again with the next protea. I love these flowers. A lot of people associate them with other tropical flowers, and they are a bit tropical, but really they come from South Africa. All right, so now I've got the pincushion protea kind of in the back there. And the next thing I'm going to design with are these fun billy balls. They are very whimsical. They remind me of something that would be in the movie The Lorax or a Dr. Seuss book. You can do lots of creative things with these. I really want them low and down as a pop of yellow color down here. If you look at my bouquet, I've got a lot of yellow over here and not so much yellow right here now while these roses are closed up. So I want a little pop of yellow down there to balance all that yellow out. So I'm going to design mine down there. I'm going to cut again at an angle. And I'm going to design these guys right down here. I'm going to have them sitting just kind of on the top edge of the rose. Now, you could definitely design these up high. They're super cool. They could go up there. And they're not massive, so that they don't look top heavy. So you can play around with that. Use your creativity to design. But I've got my 3 down here. And I have just remembered that when I laid out my flowers for this, we actually have 2 orange Gerber daisies that need to be designed to complete this. So time out while I go get my flowers. I'm back with 2 happy, fun, brighten your day Gerber daisies. Such a popular flower. And they work great all year round, but specifically in the summer. They're kind of notorious like sunflowers are, of reminding us hot, fun summer months. Now I'm going to put this pop of orange here, and then it kind of in the back of my vase. I'll turn it around so that you can see it. They are a flower like a sunflower that sometimes has a bent head, so I support them with a little wire as well. Again, we're going to pierce the wire into the head. I'm supporting the head so that I don't pop it off when I put that pressure, and then I very slowly turn and wire the wire around the stem, and then cutting the daisy at an angle, I place him in, and we've got the first daisy right there, and the last daisy. Again, I'm wiring him, and he's going to balance out the back of my arrangement. I'll give it a spin here. All right, so this is sort of what I feel is the most attractive view, the front. But as you can see, the flowers go all the way around. This could sit on an island, a coffee table, anywhere you want to add a little fun sunshine, which we all need right now. So this is the general mechanics of creating this bouquet. However, you absolutely have to add water every single day to get the most out of these blooms. On average, your flowers should last 7 to 10 days. Some flowers like the billy balls and the protea can last far beyond that, 14 days and beyond. I encourage all of you to pull out the flowers that still look good, cut them and put them in another container, maybe a little votive cup next to your bed or by your bathroom vanity. You're gonna get a lot of days out of them if you keep trimming them and using them. It just makes me sick that if, you know, the Gerber daisy happens to be the first flower that doesn't look so hot, people throw away their whole bouquet, and you really can get a lot more life out of it. Even this little eucalyptus could be put in a cute little, 2-inch vase and set somewhere to add some fun fragrance and a little bit of texture to a bathroom sink. So that's one thing we're gonna wanna do. We wanna fill the vase full of water every day, and then about every 3 days, completely change out the water. So I pull the flowers out. I normally just hold them like this. I put the container under the sink and flush it out until I have all fresh water. And then go ahead, wait for the bottom to dry off and put him back on your dining room table or wherever you would like. And that's how you're going to get the most of the flowers. Now this container, after your flowers are gone, works as a fantastic container to hold pens, markers, or even kitchen utensils and spatulas. It looks great on an island with some cool kitchen tools in it. So I hope you found this workshop fun and informative. If you have any questions, please make sure to reach out. You can email me at monica@theflowerfix.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram at theflowerfix. Thanks so much for joining us, and please watch for our next design workshop that we'll be offering next month. I'd love to have you join me then too.